So I'm so happy to be here. Thank you to everybody for being here with me. I want to thank Johnny for inviting me here. It's a big milestone for me to be here. Actually, that's my very first talk that I would make and present the studio, so it's very important for me. And I hope that the talk would be really, really interesting for you, and maybe you have some takeaways. So yeah, I hope I'll do good. So I would start with the reel of the studio.
Rhythm.
So we are a creative studio based in Sofia in Bulgaria, which is a very interesting thing to do because actually in Sofia there is not that type of big community of animation and illustration as you would find in other places like here in the UK or many, many places in the world. So there are a lot of challenges to actually start a studio and somehow arrive to the work that you would like to do and be connected to the industry. So I would like to speak a bit about that in this presentation. So we started back in 2017 officially, and it's been around 10 years so far. So why would you even want to start a studio? I mean, everyone probably has very different motivations behind that. But for me personally was that there was no such place in Sofia where I could go and work and make animations, the ones that I wanted to. So basically I had to find a way to make it for me. And I really wanted to work with people that has the same passion and were really excited about the craft that they do. So in the very beginning, I have to say that I really sucked in animation. It took me quite a long time to understand the principles and everything. So basically, what drove me to do the studio was find that team of people as curious as me who wanted to explore the boundaries of what they can do and just create good work and then feed each other's creativity together. Actually, it's funny because until the third year in university, I studied animation in university in Sofia, and until the third year, I honestly didn't know if I want to do animation because it was like at the same time I studied animation and I had that course of acting in the university, and I felt really good in acting because you were among people, you don't sit on the desk all day, and I felt that, I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to sit on the desk. And then in this third year, we had that program, which was a collaboration between our university and the Edinburgh College of Art, where we had to do 10 films in 10 days, which was quite a good challenge. So it was the first moment when I actually realized that animation can be done a bit quicker than what all the teachers in university told us. They said, you know, you have to develop the things, you have to take the time, a couple of years to develop your film, and I was really bored. I didn't want to spend so much time in 1 minute of animation. So this was a bit of a turning moment for me to actually understand that this is something you can do. You can experiment faster and do things, move from a project to another, and I mean, from that time on, I became really, really passionate about animation. So starting the studio, you have your expectations, and then you have the reality of managing it. In the beginning, I didn't really know how complex that could be, especially finding work, building a team, managing people, managing problems, financing, and all that things. So I have to say that it was a lot of time of trial and error until arriving to a thing that actually worked. And I actually started Lobster with a partner of mine who I met on Behance, just super randomly. Back in the time, I would be commenting on people's work and saying, yeah, really cool work, check out my work. And I think he wrote me, I like your stuff, but please stop commenting on people to check your work. So basically, it was a really coincidence to meet that guy. His name is Fausto Montanari, and he's based in Genova in Italy. So with him, we started the first year just experimenting, doing things for us, and not working for clients at all. And after some time, we started to work on a few small projects. That was before 2017, I think a couple of years before. And we didn't have the idea of creating a studio in the beginning. Actually, it was more my idea because I felt a bit alone in Sofia and didn't have enough people to actually work with in the same space and to experiment with. So basically, we decided, okay, let's try to do a studio. And Lobster, I mean, I was born in the city, on the seaside, and Fausto as well. So basically, after going through a lot of different ideas of names, most of which that I suggested were quite boring, and then I would say, let's call it F9 or something like that, and it was like, come on, let's think of something funnier. And then we came to Lobster and started to think about how we can use it, and yeah, I mean, it just naturally became something that we really became fond of. So a bit after that, when we did the brand, we realized that it's also funny that people tag Lobster for a lot of funny things. So on social media, we started to get a lot of tags where people just go to some dinners or restaurants, and some of them were amazing, but yeah, that was an unexpected thing. So in the very beginning, we had early explorations how we can use the lobster as a character. And through the years, we developed a few different concepts, some short animations that we implemented in our website or we used in the social media. So basically, from the very beginning, we really wanted to have a strong idea behind everything that we do. So yeah, starting from sketch, starting from just the idea is how we approach animation. So our philosophy of the studio is, on the human side, is just be good to people you work with, anyone around you, just enjoy the process. And in terms of work, I would say that we always looked quality first and not quantity of animation. There would be probably studios that really look for the growth of the studio, like getting more projects, more profits. I think that's okay, but for us, we don't want to grow too much. We enjoy getting just the right amount of work and being able to focus on the quality that we can arrive and always improve. I would say that for me, it's better to have a good studio project than a bad client's one. And in many situations, we've refused the client work. And in the time that we had like no projects, maybe we would develop something for the studio that actually brings something really cool after that in terms of client work. Something that I'm still trying to learn is that personal life is important. It's better to learn it early than late, but still good to do it. And I think it's always important to be curious and to observe the world around you, to be open to new things, and yeah, just try to see what's around you. So for the evolution of the studio, I could say that there are a couple of stages, but in the beginning, we were a bit more like a curious kid. We would hop all over and try to test different things. And a bit later on, we had a bit more defined processes, grow the team a bit. So everything started to be a bit more professional in a way, but still we kept the curiosity and playfulness. So in the very early years of the studio, we kept everything, almost everything was in-house. So we had the illustration in-house, we had the animation in-house, and all the illustrations were actually, almost all of the illustrations were made by Fausto, my partner, who was also a creative director and illustrator at the studio. And it's how we even came to work together, because as I prefer to do the animation part of the process, he was really good with ideation and he had so many ideas. So even before starting the studio, I was super happy to have someone to come up with a good idea, and then I can work on animation and just explore and play. So we focused on very simple visuals. We always thought about the idea behind it, to have a good, strong concept. We didn't want to make something overcomplicated because we couldn't be able to actually handle it in a commercial project even at the time. So yeah, we were really, really focused in character animation. So at the beginning, very first project that we did with the studio was to make a short film. And that was a big challenge because we had made some short films in the past, but not in a more structured way like we approached it this time. And we worked with the team, and everyone had a dedicated role in the production. The film was about 2.5 minutes or something like that. And it was a very big challenge for us to make it. We tried to push a lot based on the level that we had at the time. So all the animations were cel-animated, and we used a lot of After Effects for some of the scenes. Like, for example, you can see we used some shapes in After Effects that would be 3D, make that explosion of the text, and then we just drew on top of that to actually make the animation. You can see that also the lines of the rough animation are really, really wiggly, which now is not the case. We try to be super precise because that helped a lot in having a more consistent, clean line on the next stage. And after this film, we made a couple of other films, and that's been always the focus in the first years to develop that kind of projects, because the first one that we made, called Weird, brought us a lot of visibility on festivals. We actually received a lot of awards, and we got the Vimeo Staff Pick, which at the time was a very big thing for us. And the next one that I would like to share is called The Art of Coffee. So basically, in this one, there is no 3D. We actually pushed a lot on fake 3D in After Effects, and it was the first time that we would experiment a lot with scripts and try to arrive to visuals that match the illustrations. And it was quite a good challenge. Our main animator in the studio, Theodore, is really, really good with scripts. I suck, but he can make just magics. So it was a really good milestone for us, and all that scripts later on helped us in the production of other things that we did commercially. Another silly little thing that we did is a short film called Hunters and Gatherers. I think it's a bit lagging on the screen. But yeah, it's about, again, a character animation about that thing of the connection of the man with nature and this really Asian thing about hunting your food and other things. It's just a nice experimental project. And on the client side, back in that times, we actually started to arrive on some really cool collaborations. And we worked with IKEA 2 times, and this is the second collaboration we did with them, which actually was really fun. And working with the team and the creative directors at IKEA was super easy. They were super open to crazy ideas, like the character cutting in his limbs, which I was really not sure if they would like. But after that project, actually this character is a character by Craig Redman, who is part of the duo Craig and Caro. And some time ago, after we worked on that project, for example, this led to a lot of collaborations with Craig. And they make a lot of art installations. They work with different clients. So later on, we developed a small, super simple episodes about the characters' life in New York and the ups and downs. Our next project that actually was a milestone for us was the first time that we arrived to a very long-term project was with Amazon, and we started to work on this this new project that they were developing. Honestly, in the beginning, for the first 3 months, we had zero idea what we were pitching for, because they told us, we cannot give you any information about the product, but you have to pitch. It's something connected to wellness or health, and we can't give you any idea about it, but we have to pitch in that direction. So basically, we did a pitch that we had no idea what we were pitching for, and in a couple of months, we realized that we actually won. So it was a massive project where we had to develop all that illustration systems, character animation, illustration for the app. It's actually a band that measures the tone of your voice and tells you how do you feel during the day. It was a bit weird thing for Europeans, but I think in the US is very different. But the project is really pushed us in many ways, so there is a small case study. So even if the project is really vector-based, we always approach the animation when we can with frame-by-frame animation, because I think that gives you a lot of freedom, and you are not really limited by the rigs, even though that we at some point arrived to create rigs, and I would explain a bit later how we approached them back at the time. That would be really easy to manipulate, and they might even feel a bit like frame-by-frame. So the next stage of the studio would be when we would be already more defined, and what was different here is that we actually started to work with more people outside of the studio. We started to make more collaborations, and the team grew a bit. So we had a more defined pipeline. We were constantly testing new approaches, and the projects became more complex for us. One of the most challenging projects in terms of the technical side that we had is this project for AT&T, where we were invited to pitch for 1-minute animation for their new place in Dallas, is the central of AT&T. And we decided, okay, let's pitch 3 different ideas, so at least we get one. But what happened is that they like all the 3, and we had to find a way to do this. And the tricky thing was that this happened during COVID, and at the time that we had to actually test all these animation on the screen, they had a very limited time. Then they could go and just check it, and they would be back with the feedback, and we had to quickly edit. And actually, the thing is that all these videos are massive, and they were, I think, 8K, 60 frames per second, and our computers would be crashing all the time. I think rendering would take 30 hours for these. To be able to actually deliver all 3 films, we decided, okay, let's outsource and work with other artists. So what we actually did is we kept one of the film inside the studio, and we gave 2 of the other films to people outside of the studio. So this was the only way to actually achieve it, and this was one of our first experiences working with freelancers on such a complex project. These characters are all built, again, with fake 3D in After Effects. And even if they seem really simple, I think they are pretty heavy, and running them on 60 frames was a big challenge. So we discovered that there is a good way to actually animate the walk cycle and then export it and re-import it with PNG sequence, which by the time we never thought about, because all the characters were really easier to animate. And yeah, I mean, during that project, we learned a lot of technical stuff. The next one is a really fun project that we did with agency in the US for Icon Pass, which is a brand for cards that you get for ski resorts and other places all around the world. And it was super, super fun project. I have to say that I had a lot of good time working.
Got your Icon Pass, power slashing. 50 plus destinations, go and check the weather station. Sierras, the Rockies, the trees, the mountain breeze, the power, the highway, that road was good. You hear the beat and adventure runs deep. That's the good stuff, yeah, it's the good stuff.
So, thank you. This is the shorter version. We have a longer one, but I think I should stay short. This is a style frame of the rotation of the car. And I remember that this was a really, really tricky scene to do. It took a couple of days just for the animation and then coloring and everything else. But I think for us it's really fun when you have a challenge like that and you try to arrive to a really good result. So projects like this always help us push a bit, and you always find actually a more clever approach to arrive to the same result. So sometimes we find some shortcuts. And some years ago, in 2022, we had the chance to work on the TVC commercial of BBC for the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. So we worked on just 2 of the scenes, and together with other studios, where the whole commercial was actually a combination of different things from 2D to stop motion. We had this person.
Hello, welcome to my city, welcome.
And
Welcome to Town Hall, Balti Triangle, and the Academy. Hello, welcome to Town Hall, Balti.
But it was actually a really, really fun thing to do. Next thing I would like to speak about is client work versus studio projects. And to me, I think they both really matter kind of equally. And I wouldn't say that the client work is more important. I would say that even studio projects are more important, because you don't really get to choose what you work on from the clients. And then if you can make your own opportunity by creating a project that you would like to attract more projects like that, that's something that helped us a lot in the years to actually arrive to all the different possibilities that we had. And yeah, some of the best things we did is based on all the studio projects that we spent time doing. This is, for example, a project that we occasionally work with a studio in Italy called Alcanoids, and they have this side thing called Discover. It's a game of words. It's Discover because we discover the different covers, yeah. And then what you basically do is you select, it's an artist project, so you basically select a cover that you like, and then you can do the animation, and it's AR, so people can scan it, so just have a surprise when you get that vinyl out of the shop. So we created a couple of these. It's cool because also every time we work on one of these, someone from the team selects the cover and then makes the art, and eventually they animate or we all animate it together. So it's kind of a fun, passionate project. And a next one that was a really fun thing to experiment some years ago was called Crooked. And it's basically experimentation where we started from the 2D sketch, then we had the 2D illustrated animation, and then we translated that in 3D with help from a 3D artist out of the studio. So basically that project was something that allowed us to see how we can translate our work into 3D, which we didn't do before. Next thing that I would like to share is a project that I think was one of the wisest that we did in terms of social media posting. It's the Zodiac project, because we had 12 posts for each month, and we didn't have to think because we would post them each month. And it was actually really fun to explore this one, because each of us could actually take their own zodiacal sign and animate it or give it to someone else. And this project is created with Miguel Camprubi, who is an illustrator that we work quite a lot. And he's one of the first external persons to the studio, and I would say that now he's kind of part of the studio. A lot of work we've done with him. And this is the second part of the zodiacal signs. And another fun projects that we did is that are the studio IDs, which are inspired a bit from the MTV idents, which for a long time we wanted to arrive to a project for MTV, but we couldn't. So in the end we said, okay, maybe we can try to do something for the studio. Just
Hey!
So this one is created by Mario Meneses, who was in the studio some years ago. He is from Mexico. Really, really suggesting to work with him. It's amazing. So I would share a bit about the studio workflow. I'm sure it's not way different from most of the studio workflows, but I would just like to tell a bit about it. So basically, we always start with ideas and then sketches, and then ideas and then sketches. And then when we have the downtime, we would usually develop a lot of ideas. Maybe we can write them or sketch them, and then when we have time to work on them, we can come back and pick up an idea that we have somewhere in the archive and develop it further. And this is how we actually create a lot of the GIFs that you would see on social media. And there is an example of the process of a frame-by-frame animation that we would make. In the beginning, you have just key poses that lock the animation, and then we go to the in-betweens and work on some of the elements. We break down each GIF like a small mini project, so some of them could be a bit more complex, some could be simple. Sometimes we would work before that with After Effects, and maybe as we have here, we had defined the tracking of the character. And then once we have all these environments set, we work on top of the video, and then we draw the character, we add the in-betweens, and then the secondary animations, that would be the leash of the dog, and then it's just coloring, which is the best part. You don't have to think. As we said, we do a lot of fake 3D because we are lazy to learn real 3D. And I think that's also a flaw because that could be easier. So this is an example of a GIF that Theo did some years ago, and he's obsessed with chess. So he had that idea of the character running around on the chessboard and just being followed by a hand with the figures. So all of the figures are really controllable in After Effects, and you can move them around. And it takes a little bit of time to actually set and organize everything, but once you have it, it's really easy to play with. And regarding the characters and rigs, we have found a way that works really cool for us, and of course it takes time to set it. But basically, we use Duik to make the rig. And instead of linking just illustration to the bones, what we do is we create shape layers with nulls, and we link the nulls, and then you can actually control the nulls independently of the movement of the Duik rig. So that helps you actually create a lot of complex rigs. And for example, that phone is also really, really easy to move around. So this is a bit more complex character. Everything is vector and is in After Effects. It might look a bit like 3D, but it's not. And when I showed this to Theo the other day, he asked me who was the crazy person that even decided to try this, and I said it was you. Yeah, it's actually really, really crazy. I don't remember how he did it, but it was insane. And that helped a lot in the idea that we did back in the time for Lobster. And then another use that we would do for After Effects would be to control particle systems. We did that project for TED, where we had to have that pollution elements flow around the screen, and we were thinking, okay, if we have to draw them, that would take so much time. and then came up with the idea of trying to control them with the rectangles and some scripting that basically I don't understand. If you ask me what I prefer, rigging or frame by frame, I would say that I do prefer frame by frame, but actually rigging is very helpful when you have projects which are longer, when you have a series that you would have the same character reused a couple of times. And other than that, I think rigging is kind of waste of time if you have to use the character in one scene. So the better you become with frame by frame, I think the less you would need rigging, except for some specific cases that actually are, you might need it. So industry is changing a lot, and I think all of us feel a bit of a pressure about that, and there is a lot of new tools, a lot of new things happening. There is AI and a lot of things, so it's kind of overwhelming. My personal opinion is that you don't have to know everything, and you have to focus on one thing at a time and become really good at it. What actually helped Lobster to position in the industry was that we were, from the beginning, very focused on one specific thing, which was character animation. And with the time, we improved that a lot. And being good at one thing is something that actually sometimes when there is a client and they need something specific, they know, okay, we can go to these guys because they do that. And yeah, I guess learning new tools is really important, but I suggest don't go all over the place. Try to focus on one thing, do it good, and then move to the next one. So what's next for us? It's, I would say, I would like to do more interactive projects, find a way how we can actually do that and still keeping character in them. Basically, we would be working on the next project with that car manufacturer. It's not a car manufacturer, but it's a rest mode project. They have the next car planned to start really soon, and we're going to work on the new cluster, which would be way more fun because they want to go in a more funky direction. So I guess probably we would be able to do more and crazier animations. Also, at the moment, we work on a really nice project for all the airports in Norway. So soon, I guess, if you travel there, you would see some animation on the screens and some illustrations, for which I'm very excited. And yeah, I guess more collaborations with artists and all that things. So AI, I have only one slide for that, and I see it broke. I don't know why. So yeah, I think AI is a thing and it would stay, but it's a choice that you can make if you want to use it or not. I believe that at the moment, I don't find the right way to use it. I don't like the concept of creating things with a prompt or one click. I just like the whole process of the craft and creating ideas, struggling a bit, finding ways to do something. And I'm sure that there will be a moment in the future where that would be very helpful, even in animation, even frame by frame. Maybe where you could actually drop your line work and a couple of style frames, and it would be really, really precise and color it for you, because that takes hours. But also you need to have it in layers, you need to have everything editable. So I don't know how far is that from now, but probably it would be something that happened in the future. And also what I don't like about AI is all the pressure. I think that everyone feels that pressure at the moment. I'm not really up to the new things. It's always changing. I don't know if that would kind of take my work or not. And I don't think that's really healthy pressure, and I think that it's a bit too much. So I would not worry too much about AI at that time, and I really see that brands are now coming back to actual craft, and I would give a suggestion, like an example with Hermes, which if you've seen their social media account in the last year, they collaborated with more than 50 artists, and I think all the smart brands would move in that direction really soon. Because AI is good for speeding up things, but I don't think it's as crazy as a person. So to me, what makes a great animation is the way you think, your mind, your experience as animator, as a person, your personal observations of the world, your feelings, your emotions. Your acting skills are really important, because I think if you want to be a really good animator, you have to really try learn acting, look at people, see why every action happens, and the why is very important. Of course, your taste, and you should always include a weird surprise, which is very important in animation. of course, your sense of humor and many more things. So, yeah, I mean, animations are complex. And I think collaborations are something that you should be not afraid of. And in the studio, we've been collaborating with people for the last few years a lot. And we've made some great friendships. And we work with artists that we're super big fans of. And then you just need to try. You have to reach out and see if maybe they will be interested. Worst that can happen is that they can say no or they not reply. But I think having that approach to collaboration is something that would give you a lot of new experience, especially if you work with people from different places. Being in Sofia, we have a little bit of more limited, limited possibilities. So to me, working with people from around the world is really, really enriching, and you meet different cultures, different perspectives, and that's always so nice. And for the last 2 years, we've been a bit quiet, and we've been working on a project that's a bit different from animation, but I would say still very connected. And it's actually that creative space that Hannah mentioned that took quite a while to make, and it was a crazy effort that I had no idea. So, starting a thing like that and having no idea where to start is really confusing. I remember that back in 2022 when we signed with the owners of the place, because we're leasing, we planned to have all the renovation of the space like in 8 to 10 months. And actually that was just a dream that didn't happen. It took 2.5 years. So we started with planning, and these are all the different floors of the space. It's just an old house with 3 floors and a basement, and then there is a backyard. So we had to start thinking how to actually use all of the different spaces in the best way, because space is kind of limited. And this is just one of my files. I think I have maybe 20 of them of planning and changing. So this is the first stage. For the first year and a half, I would go and see the place almost all the time like that. I have no idea how I was not demotivated by it. But in general, it was a really fun thing, even though it looks crazy. And once it was completed, it became very different. So we have a few different things in the space. We have a print club which is very similar to the idea of Print Club of London, but it's a tiny version of it, where we would like to introduce it to the local artists and just make them try to do more things, experiment, and make their own prints, editions, designs, or anything else. We have the cafe, which has a really more social part, which is the more social part of the space. And then we have a gallery where we create different exhibitions with artists. And this is the gallery on the left side. And of course, as an animator, the first thing you would do when putting a shades is to animate them. And then we use the facade of the building sometimes, like on Halloween, and we decorate it with some panels, just painted. And this is just like a very recent project. Last week we had an artist from the Netherlands, Maria, and she came to do the murals on the inside space, so it was kind of crazy timeline for a week. And then we've done quite a lot of different things, very much different from animation. I think a lot of new challenges. One of the first residents that we had is Jimmy Turrell, who is somewhere here, over there. And he stayed for a month. I think I learned so much from him, because he's not really a digital guy. He's very old school in his approach, which I really appreciate. And he showed me how he works with just paper and collage and all the different things. And we had a lot of good times in Sofia. And then we had Steph Ramplin, who was last September in Sofia for a residency. And she explored the theme of cookery, which is a tradition that we have in Bulgaria, where in winter we have all that people with different costumes dancing around to scare away the evil spirits. So she had her take on that. And then we had Kellyanna September, and we made a giant sculpture. I mean, it's always really exciting to try to make something new and to find ways to do it actually. And also we had Nicola Strada, who is producing a lot of these mini sculptures for different artists, and then Marie Lefort with a show the previous year in 2024. And this is a list of the artists that we already managed to invite in 1 year and a half. And for this year already we have a good list of new people that we would be hoping that would join the space. And this is a small animation that we did. So basically, we try to include animation as much as possible in every opportunity when we have someone at the space. And the first one that you see is with Nicola Strada, where actually he worked on his own animation, but we made that screen, which is actually a castle, and it's a screen behind, and we have all that cut out shapes, and the character pops up from each of the windows. And then we had Elesisu, who is a Spanish mural artist. And then with her we decided, okay, what if we put a screen on top of the mural and match the mural and make some animation? And I think that was the first time that we would do something like that. And it turned out to be really cool. With Keliano we had this AR poster, which people really liked. And then just on the current exhibition that we have now with the artist from Sofia, also called Nikolai, we have that interactive piece, which is made in Rive, and it took us just a week to make it. And it's a ball that you can actually dribble in front of a camera. The camera is just tracking your hand, nothing too complex, but still good to have someone near you that understands code, because we didn't do the code. And this is the piece that Steph did for the cookery. So basically, during she was in Sofia, during Steph was in Sofia, she was working on that project for the Manchester Animation Festival, and I had the chance to actually try 3D for the first time and help her with some animations that she used later in the film for the Manchester Animation Festival, which was really cool because I always postponed trying 3D, and having her around and not having to make rigs or model or anything was a really good time to just play and experiment. And I think animation is just animation no matter what type of animation you do. So basically, principles are the same, and it felt a bit like stop motion to me, and just having to control all the rigs. It's really something that I would love to do more in the future, but let's see. And then with each of the people that have exhibitions in Sofia, we actually make a beer label. It's a custom beer that we do maybe 100 or 200 until they sell out, and then we just have some empty cans. And if you're in Sofia until the end of March, come and let's throw some balls together.